See Krishna, Malende. Okay, guys, welcome to our platform once more. It's a new day, 28th, after the long day of elections and awaiting results. Of course, they had to stream in, right? All right. They always say it's so hard to chase away somebody from their own house, and I just believed it. Someone will have to hold even to the last badge to survive, all right? And of course, during the campaigns, we saw a lot of conflict, or rather kind of belittlement and even, kind of abuses thrown left and right. We don't have to go back to that. But of course, you saw that in the effort to campaign, each of the candidates was trying to prove to be the him or the it. Now, of course, when you see the narrow difference between Wamudende and Karish, as well as Ndakwa and the guy Panyako, it's a very minimal difference. In fact, a difference of 400 votes or so. Guys, now people are surprised, but this did not come as a surprise because, of course, I know somebody who said that the PSS and all that, they have been engaged to fully make sure that they deliver those two positions to the government. And the government has the tools. And no wonder you saw the sort of violence that happened in the country. I was really asking a lot of questions. And I came to a conclusion that, of course, Ruto understands very well that when you frustrate the voters, that is enough to actually give you a win. Now, this is quite dangerous for 2027 because what kind of atrocities will we see? Because here, apparently what we saw was a kind of push and pull. Panyako was actually threatened and, attacked, beaten, and all that. And after this process, of course, there was a lot of fear that was pushed, or rather, was induced to the people, all right? So let's look at some of these historical moments. Guru Demaji, I'm from Kenya. How about you? All right, guys, so let's read the message. And of course, if you are careful yesterday, I saw a post as early as 11 where it was declaring that was a winner. And there was something else which was declaring Wamudende as a winner. And I was like, oh, what's happening? Something is cooking. And of course, Siamdanda Tando, welcome. Gurude Mahaj, I am so fine. How about you? I hope you're fine. All right. Yeah, so yesterday, when we kept watching the videos, we were, a bit of not very sure about what is happening. The first thing that happened in Malava, the frustration that were there. Then now come to the timing of release of results. You realize that all other places received their results so early. But when it came to Malava and Mbeere North, their results were kind of held on up to late. They counted as late as, I think they released them around 2, which is so late, right? Robert Atieli, poa sana. I'm doing fine. Mother Lou, I'm doing very fine, as you can see. Yeah. So political analysis continues, guys. Now, look at this. Ndakwa did it, of course. Or it was posted by UDA. It was so early, right? Congratulations to Honorable Njeru Leonard Wamudende on your resounding victory. Member of Parliament of Mbeere North Constituency, Embu County. This win is clear and undeniable message that people have decided to reject the fears, threats, and overwhelming embrace of hope and principled leadership. Underline that. Principled leadership. The people of Mbeere North have chosen development, dignity, and stability. The farm, this is to affirm UDA vision that uplifts and is complacent with protection of democratic choice and puts ordinary citizens first. Your victory is not just political, it's a testament of the resilience to resolve a community that refuses to submit to chaos and deception. As you take up this mandate, we stand forward to advancing transformative leadership and integrity, guys. So that was a message that UDA posted immediately after this guy Wamodende did it. Robert Atieli says Ndakwa nikidhani ameshinda. Of course alishinda, si kudhani. Alishinda, yeye ndio alipewa kiti. But there was a very narrow difference between him and Panyako. John Baffain says hello. So guys, Asmau Kasim, welcome. All right. Now when we look another posting that was placed, I think it was this. Asmau Kasim, I said hello. All right. Yeah, so let's look at the difference of votes. And this was posted by Billy. That is Mbeere North. Leo Amudende scored 15,815 votes. Karish got 15,417 votes. Mbui Duncan 2,343. Allah. So of course that was it. The difference of around, let's say 402 votes. All right. Asmau Kasim, you can subscribe if you wish to support the channel. If you wish to support, please subscribe to the channel and continue to watch what we do all the time. So guys, when that post is done and they say principal leadership, I'm like, okay, of course, principal towards maybe looting, because we have seen a lot of looting happening in the house. And this guy was part of the looting from health. You remember the saga that was written in Standard Nation? So looting continues, guys, for 5 more years. If Kenyans have agreed, why not? Because you can tell me that even if they were bribing, we saw that GACHAGUA kept reminding people in Mbeere that they should eat that money but vote against. Whichever way, maybe people will come up with theories of stuffing and all that. But I remember in the evening, the people at Mbeere actually were guarding the votes, and they sent away some people who are coming with the staff to vote. In fact, some of them were literally burnt down. So the equation of staffing we may remove from this, but whatever it is, of course, we have seen finally Ruto has proven a master class or a master lesson, I don't know which one, because the contest was more of the top. It was just not between Karish and Leo Mudende. Wamudende was just being used as a tool. But the reality that this was a war between Rigathi and, Kindiki, or Rigathi and his former boss, Ruto. So finally, Ruto has shown dust, and he came out bragging today. I want you to look at Wamudende receiving the certificate. Then we'll get to also look at how finally we see the president talking about this matter. So let's see this. So finally, Kindiki, of course, will be so proud. He maintains his post. When he went around posting videos, and I'm so sorry for GACHAGUA. Actually, GACHAGUA had to go to the lowest, like going around even with the mirror business, going about to eat with people, going about walking and greeting people So all was in vain, guys. And he is, you know, he is being told the truth that Kenya Kwanza is the it. All right. So what do you think? If you drop a comment, please drop in relation to what you think in relation to what will happen in 2027. Do you believe that this is going to define the politics of 2027? Because this was a race, the Malava and Mbeere North race was a race that was going to define 2027. And I want us to look at Wamudende receiving the certificate and what he says, and then we'll come to Malava. Where is this? Yeah, now, of course, another thing we have to add is, do you believe that ODM zones, like we saw Magarini, we saw Kaspul, do you think those votes, if ODM collaborates with the UDA, they are going to collect all those votes from those ends? That's another question we have to ask ourselves. So let's see Wamudende giving a speech and receiving the certificate. All right, so we have to see this.
Who turned out to vote were 34,134. Therefore, the percentage of voter turnout was 61.92%. Therefore, the powers granted by the commission, and we have the chairman as commissioner there and the CEO, we want to declare that Honorable Leo Wamudende Jero has duly been elected as the member of the National Assembly for Mbeere North constituency. We want now to read the certificate and give to the winner. Maybe give him space. Mheshimiwa, karibu. Now, certificate of elected member of National Assembly. The constituency returning officer hereby declares that Jero Leo Wamudende of ID numbers 22020809 has been duly elected as the member of the National Assembly for Mbeere North constituency in the election held on 27th day of November 2025. The constituency returning officer, John Kenyuamwi, of the indicated signature, dated this 28th day of November 2025.
All right. So of course, I remember Wamudende gave a speech immediately after that while he received his certificate. And as I said, it's so hard for someone to be in power and fighting a war with whoever is outside power, even though the other year we saw Ruto was not in government and he still won. But it's about understanding the mathematics, guys. So, of course, JB Muturi, GACHAGUA, and the rest of them had been really fighting to make sure that they take this post. And during that time of fighting, they really threw or hurled abuses at each other, which was unfortunate, but they always say politics is a game. And of course, being a game, we understand. So let's get to see what today we saw our president bragging about it. And of course, that's why I'm saying that the win was his win. You can't argue otherwise. It was a win for him. So let's check on this as the president fires back at GACHAGUA. Of course, today he's at Kamandura, Kiambu. So let's listen.
Kiambu hoye! Ni leo si leo bana. Si ni leo. Ndugu zangu watu wa Kiambu na Nakuru. Ndugu zangu wa Kenya. Mimi nawaeleza ya kwamba nimesoma hiyo taarifa kwa sababu jambo tunafanya hapa leo ni jambo la kihistoria. Mimi niliwaeleza ya kwamba tutabadilisha taifa letu la Kenya. Tutatoa Kenya kutoka third world. Tutapeleka Kenya first world. Sisi tukiwa hai kwa miaka 30 ijayo, Kenya hii itabadilika. Tutaondoa umaskini. Tutahakikisha kwamba kuna nafasi ya ajira ya vijana wetu kwa uchumi, na tutakuwa na chakula ya kutosha. Kenya iweze kupiga hatua ya kwenda mbele. Mimi nauliza nyinyi watu wa Kiambu na Nakuru na wa Kenya, munaamini hamuamini? Munaamini hamuamini? Munaamini? Mimi nataka niwaeleze. Leo hii barabara tunajenga hapa. Kutoka hapa Kamandura mpaka Gilgil. Tumekubaliana na contractor. Hii barabara ndani ya miezi 6 itakuwa imekamilika kufika pale Gilgil. Nimesema miezi ngapi? Nimesema miezi ngapi? Miezi 6. Musikie vipi? Leo miezi 6 hii barabara itakuwa tumemaliza kutoka Kamandura mpaka imefika wapi? Imefika Gilgil. Kwa sababu nimekubaliana na hawa wangwana ya kwamba wakimaliza hii barabara ifike Gilgil, waanze ile ya kutoka hapa kwenda chini pale Mai Hill kupitia mpaka ifike Naivasha. Tumekubaliana? na hiyo ni contractor moja. Mimi tena naenda kuanzisha contractor mwingine leo pale Gilgil. Kuna contractor ananingoja pale saa hii. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Nyinyi mnanielewa? Contractor mwingine anangoja pale Gilgil leo. Tunaenda kuanzisha sasa hiyo barabara kutoka Gilgil pale iende Nakuru, iende Mau Summit. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Na huyu contractor, genge moja ya ujenzi inaanza hapa. Genge ingine ya ujenzi iko katikati. Genge ingine ya ujenzi inaanzia Gilgil. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Nyinyi mnanielewa? Tuko na contractor mwingine ataanzia pale Gilgil na aanzie pia Mau Summit. Kwa sababu nimesema kwa mapenzi ya Mungu mimi nataka siku ya madaraka. Siku gani? 2027, siku ya madaraka, tarehe 1 mwezi wa 6. Mimi nakuja kufungua hii barabara ikiwa imekamilika. Nyinyi mnanielewa?
Mnanielewa?
Wakenya hoye! Inawezekana, haiwezekani bwana. Tunaelewana? Tunaelewana? Na hii barabara haikwami pale Mau Summit. Tayari wiki ijayo tayari tumepata pesa kutoka watu wa AIB Bank. Wametupatia pesa ya kufanya feasibility study kutoka pale Mau Summit iende Eldoret, iende mpaka Malava, iungane na Uganda. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Na barabara ingine itoke pale Mau Summit iende Kericho, iende Sumu, iende Malava, tuunganishe tena na Uganda. Na hiyo kazi tunatangaza feasibility study next week. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Tukimaliza hii barabara 2027 ifike pale Mau Summit. Wakati tunafungua tarehe 1, hiyo tarehe 3 mimi naanzisha ile barabara ya kutoka Mau Summit kwenda Uganda. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Nyinyi mnanielewa? Hii Kenya tutaibadilisha. I promise you, this country, hii nchi yetu imechelewa na maendeleo. Na sasa ndio tumefikia hiyo wakati ya kusema we no longer want mediocrity in our equation. We no longer want the average in our equation. We no longer want the normal and the similar in our equation. We must go for excellence. We must go for what is better than what we have today. Nyinyi watu wa Kiambu mnanielewa jameni? Kiambu mnanielewa? Mimi niliwaeleza ya kwamba maneno hii ya barabara, na nimetangaza pale bunge ya kwamba hii barabara tunafanya dual carriageway. Nimewasomea hapa barabara ambazo tutaanza kuzijenga. Sio hii peke yake. Mwaka ujao, mwaka gani? Zile barabara zingine zote mimi nimetangaza next year tunazianzisha dual carriageway ya kutengeneza hii Kenya yetu yote. Na hiyo haitoshi. Pia nimesema ya kwamba ile Kenya tangu uhuru tume 22. Sasa nimeamurisha wizara ya mabarabara, nimewaambia watengeneze ingine kilomita 28,000. Tunataka kujenga another 28,000 kilometers of tarmac. Toko watu, nikienda sehemu yote ya Kenya, sikizeni ndugu zangu, mimi nikienda sehemu zote za Kenya, nikienda Northern Kenya wananiambia barabara haitoshi. Nikikuja hapa Central Kenya wananiambia barabara bado. Nikienda Nyanza wanasema barabara bado. Nikienda Rift Valley wanasema bado. Nikienda Coast wanasema bado. Nikienda Eastern wanasema bado. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Ili kutatua kikamilifu shida ya mabarabara Kenya na kuhakikisha ya kwamba kila mkulima anaweza kupeleka mazao yake kutoka shambani mpaka sokoni, tunaweza kupeleka bidhaa yetu ya kuuza nchi za nje kwa taratibu na njia sawa sawa, ni kujenga kilomita zingine 28,000 Kenya. We double the kilometers of road we have built In the last 60 years, we want to change that and build another 28 kilometers in the next 10 years. And it is possible. And we know how to do it. Wakenya hoye! Kiambu hoye! Tumeelewana? Tumeelewana? Mimi niliwaambia.
All right, guys. So you realize that the president was so happy, and he was trying as much as possible to talk in terms of what he has always promised. He didn't have to change. He maintained that his aspect is about the roads. I don't know what you feel. Bernard Shimoli, welcome in the house. Thank you so much for showing up. And anybody else, please subscribe to the channel as we continue analyzing the current situations in Kenya. Of course, the by-elections are now over, and I hope people will settle. We will not have people going left and right in courts again. Now, remember Magarini. Magarini is one of the controversial cases that happened. Kombe won the other time and against Karis. And it was indicated it was a fault election and they needed to correct the mess. But after election, Kombe still won. ODM. So, my question is, are these voters joking around? Because amount of money used in elections, it's a lot of money. So why would they go just redo what they did previously? And it doesn't really contravene what had happened. So my question goes on, and I wonder, was there any rigging previously? Or did the rigging improve? Or what exactly happened? Yeah? So let's get to hear more about Rironi Summit, Mau Summit Road. But you can actually see that if there is anybody who slept well yesterday, it is the president of Kenya, because a battle has been there for almost 2 weeks or 3, with Rigiji assuring the people of the country that he is going to offer 1 term. But now it seems that 1 term is not a reality. Maybe 2 term is, I don't know. Maybe you can drop your comment based on what you think. So let's go back and hear what he says.
Ya kwamba tutakuwa na mpango ambayo itatusaidia kujenga masoko, kujenga affordable housing, kujenga hostels. Nikisimama hapa Kiambu, leo nikisimama hapa Kiambu. Hapa Kiambu tuko na pesa shilingi bilioni 48. Pesa ngapi? 48 billion. My friends, ya Kiambu County. Saa hii tunajenga affordable housing. Manyumba 22,000 ya Kiambu inaendelea kujengwa. Na nyinyi mumeziona. Si hata ndio ile nyumba si iko hapa. Si hapa Limuru iko nyumba mrefu. Ni kweli ama si kweli bwana?
Nyumba mrefu.
Si soko iko hapa, si soko kubwa inajengwa hapa Limuru. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Tunajenga soko 30 new markets in Kiambu. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Mimi nataka niwaulize hapa Kiambu. Serikali gani imejenga soko 30 Kiambu County? Nani amejenga nyumba 22,000 Kiambu County? Mimi
Campaign
bana.
ongoing.
Kiambu hoye. Hii Kenya itabadilika ama itabadilika? Na hiyo kazi yote ya kujenga manyumba, kujenga masoko ni kazi ya miaka 2. Si ndio? Kazi ya miaka ngapi? Na miaka 10 na miaka 20. Si Kenya itabadilika?
Miaka 20.
Kiambu itabadilika? Kiambu haitabadilika ama haitabadilika bwana? Sijui kama tunaelewana. Tuko pamoja? Kiambu hoye. Kiambu hoye. Wakenya hoye.
Now, when the president actually said that in 20 years, I was surprised. Is he planning to be there for 20 years? Like, he comes out and says, if changes have happened in 5 years, what about 10 years? What about 5 years? I'm like, if you are going back, you are going back for 5 years. Why are you mentioning 10 years and then 20 years? You know, that is the funny thing that we get in politics. And this guy now has all the guts. after the aspect of the elections in Malava and North Mbeere, he really has he thinks that he can have it all. So he's going about in Central because now he thinks he is assured of the Central percentage based on what Wamudende has gotten. My question is, maybe you can drop a comment. Do you think that the winning of Wamudende defines what Central stands for? Or why exactly is the president now saying this? Why is he saying in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? Does he mean to stay for 20 years? Is that what we went to collect from Museveni recently when he went to open a company for metals, steel metals? You know, I have a lot of questions, guys, and I just don't know who to ask, guys. And that is why I'm asking them here. Jacadams, don't be emotional, relax. Now, the blame I have is that people actually withstood violence. Violence, I believe, is one thing that suppressed voters when it came to Mbeere North and Malava. That moment when Panyako, or rather the vehicles, the Subarus, were moving around, it really suppressed a lot of voters. And that is why we saw what we saw. Then I also wondered why Kaspool results came in so fast. We saw the result of Magarini coming in so fast. But when it came to Malava, as well as Mbeere North, it took a while. It took a while before the results were announced. What was happening? You know, those are the questions we might ask. Then you remember very well in Mbeere North, people really complain about people who are moving around with a car and giving money, literally, to the voters. So it means that as far as people are cheating, they'll take money and not vote for, they still had to do that. And they could come out, I think, having taken the photo because they were promised to do so, and also do the same. So I think the government is learning one thing, that Kenyans can really be misused, you know, like they can be manipulated into delivering the results the government wants. The other lesson that the government is learning is that you can actually use violence to suppress the voting process. Because you remember yesterday we were told only 60% turned up in Mbeere North to vote. Malava, of course, it was around 50-something. Kaspool also, it was a bit low. Nyamira and all other places. So it's so unfortunate. It's unfortunate that this has been learned in 2025 when another election is coming in 2027. I don't know what will happen, but you can drop a comment in relation to that. So let's continue to listen to him. He always has to talk about the houses, and he has to talk about the roads and markets. I don't know what else. So let's just listen. Will he talk about education and health? Unfortunately, remember in January, parents are going to carry the burden of school fees. And health is always on our shoulders. Anytime you are sick, have some money in the pocket, or else you cannot call the police when SHA is not working. Unfortunately, that hard realities. But anyway, let's see.
Unasema tubadilishe Kenya ama mnataka tuendelee na siasa duni? Tubadilishe. Mnasema tubadilishe Kenya? Na sio peke yake Kiambu tunajenga. Tunajenga kila sehemu ya Kenya. Bila ubaguzi, bila ukabila, bila chuki, bila ya kubagua sehemu yoyote ya Kenya. Kwa sababu mimi naelewa umoja ya taifa letu la Kenya. Na nyinyi mulinipatia nafasi ya uongozi na muliniambia ya kwamba mnapiga kura sio kwa kabila ya mtu. Mnapiga kura kwa sababu ya sera na mpango na agenda ya kupeleka taifa letu la Kenya mbele. Ni kweli ama si kweli Kiambu? Ni kweli ama si kweli? Mimi nawaomba kwa unyenyekevu, mimi nawaomba jameni, mkubali niunganishe taifa letu la Kenya. Tuungane pamoja, tuondoe ukabila, tuondoe chuki, tuondoe migawanyiko. Kenya ni moja, umoja ni nguvu, na tutasonga mbele tukiwa pamoja kama wananchi wa taifa letu la moja, taifa la Kenya. Ama mnasemaje Kiambu jameni? La moja. Ama mnasemaje? Mnasema tuungane? Mnasema tushirikiane? Tutembee pamoja? Hebu nione wala anasema tutatembea pamoja watu wa Kiambu. Tumekubaliana? Na mimi nawaomba kwa sababu mimi najua ya kwamba kazi ya kuendesha taifa ni kazi ngumu. Saa zingine iko na matatizo mengi, lakini kwa mapenzi ya Mungu, kwa usaidizi wa Mungu, Kenya hii tutaibadilisha. Tumeteremsha bei ya mbolea na mnajua ni kweli ama si kweli? Tumeweka mpango mkubwa, niliwaeleza ya kwamba tutakuwa na mpango ya afya. Wakati nilienda kwa uchaguzi, nyinyi mliniambia nibadilishe mambo ya afya. Afya isiwe haki ya matajiri, watu wako na kazi na watu wako na uwezo. Mlisema mnataka afya iwe haki ya kila Mkenya. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Na mimi nawashukuru ya kwamba leo katika taifa Kenya, Wakenya milioni 27.7 tayari wamejisajili kwa SHA, na tunasonga mbele kuhakikisha kwamba hakuna Mkenya atauza mali yake, auze ng'ombe yake, auze shamba yake ati kulipa gharama ya hospitali. Sasa mambo ya gharama ya hospitali tutasimamia kama serikali, tutalipa kupitia kwa SHA na tutakuwa na bima ya kila Mkenya kuhakikisha kwamba tunawashughulikia Wakenya wote. Kiambu hoye! Kiambu hoye! Mnasema tuendelee ama tuendelee? Mnasema tuendelee ama tuendelee? Jana, si mnajua jana kulikuwa na uchaguzi Kenya?
Now, can you imagine, before we go to his speech about the by-elections, I don't know, the president actually now insists that people should move alongside him to arrest tribalism. But I just wonder, when I see these guys, Farouk standing or Sudi, I don't know. He normally, gives information that is more of tribal. I don't know. Eureka Western says, hello Kenyans, I'm from Uganda, but the truth is, trust President Ruto, he's having a vision for Kenya. Every president has a vision for Kenya, Eureka. All the presidents we've had, they have a vision. But a vision alone cannot work. When we create violence in a country, is that really working towards a good vision? Because we really agree that a president should have a vision. But then at the same time, if looting is going on to the extent it's happening in our country, I don't know whether we should continue trusting. Like a lot of money has been borrowed from outside currently. And there is a lot of money that has also been lost from the different headquarters or different kitties, So I just don't know, because when you speak as a leader, you have a vision indeed. But then your actions should also go with your words. Yeah, he has done markets, he has done roads. But then, can you imagine that our country, in the 2 years, has borrowed like 10 times what was borrowed in previous years? So it means that the burden of the loan is too much for the Kenyans. And when you look at the reality about the common Kenyan, most of them are not even affording food at the end of the day. Yeah, we need a vision in terms of industries, roads, but will the dead be the ones to use those roads? Because people don't have the food, they don't have survival aspects and all that. So Eureka Western, we don't have a problem with him having a vision. In fact, since I started knowing what politics is, I've seen Kibaki having a vision for the country. I saw Uhuru also having a vision for the country. And I can see he also has a vision. But then, the only problem we have with him, there is a lot of looting, extra looting that is happening in the government. I don't know whether Eureka, you normally check on our, whistleblowing that comes out with information about the things that have been stolen left and right. If only that can stop, we can be better. So I would actually wish that he does what he's doing. At the same time, he should try to cushion and prevent us from having people looting left and right. And at the same time, he should also help us to prevent over borrowing. Because if you listen at what amount Kenya has borrowed for the last 3 or 4 years, that is just too much. Then the overtaxing is also making the life of even those who are working frustrated. That is why a lot of Kenyans have run to go work in Canada or other countries. And even those of us who are here as civil servants, we are wishing to go to other countries where we could work and make enough money that could allow us come back and invest. Because currently, the salary that we are receiving is too little. You even borrow a loan is not enough to do any investment for you and make you comfortable. So when he talks about us paying health for those who are poor or building houses for those who are poor, does he consider that even those who are paying houses or whatever for those who are poor don't have houses? That is the problem. So we don't have a problem with his vision. He can have the vision and continue, but let him do in the best efforts that will not make Kenyans frustrated. All right. James Gol Kondo says, hello Kenyans. James from India, welcome. All right, so let's check on something else. Remember, we had a contest for Malava and also we had North Mbeere. So we want to go to North Mbeere. No, we have come from North Mbeere. We want to go to the contest in Malava, then we come back to Homa Bay. All right. So welcome once more. Subscribe to the channel and continue dropping comments. I appreciate James Cole, Kondo, Eureka Western, Jackal Dams, Bernard Shimoli, Askamasim, and John Befelmi, Robert Atieli, and Mother Low, among others, for their comments. There is Siamathanda also and Gurude Maji. So thank you so much for coming around, and also I appreciate for your like of the video. So let's get to check on Ndakwa. I saw a video with Ndakwa receiving the IEBC certificate. Yeah, so of course, Malava, you remember very well, there was a lot of frustration done here and there. And at some point, I think this guy, Panyako, gave up. So let's just check on Dakwa and how he received his certificate. And we see this.
James Shinachi Angatia has garnered 243 votes. Shivale Bruce Jackson has garnered 390 votes. Job Burudi Manyasi has garnered 70 votes. Edgar Busiega Mwanga has garnered 209 votes. Benjamin Nalwa has garnered 215 votes. David Atman Dakwa has garnered 21,564 votes. George Ngaira Oyugi has garnered 148 votes. Seth Ambusini Panyako has gathered 20,210 votes. Wilberforce Indai Tuvei has garnered 626 votes. I now declare Mr. David Atman Dakwa as officially has been elected the official MP of Malava constituency. And in that connection, Mheshimiwa, kindly come forward and pick your certificate.
Kanyago was just standing behind. Come on, see
Officially elected the MP of Malava constituency.
1,000. Look how different the 1,100.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Ngako wanatoka
I want to give you an opportunity to
Mkongo.
say a word or two to your electorates, then we wind over.
So Salibot from Mukongol. So Ndakwa was popular generally. It was only the politics of external. Oh. So guys, this is Alex Kakus Yongali. Welcome. So guys, you finally realized that Ndakwa might have been popular. It's only that the politics of GACHAGUA made it look like Panyako is popular. Though the difference is also minor, but a difference of 1,000 votes is not easy, right? So it happened to be. The problem with the Malava election is that it looked more like now a war between the united opposition and again the government. Now the government was working night and day to ensure it delivers that position to Ndakwa, because the UDA had to prove a point that they have to win Malava and Mbeere North, and of course they have done it. However, they lost in Narok, they lost in Magarini, they lost in Kaspul, and all those. So what is your opinion? Do you think Malava will still stand with UDA in the forthcoming elections? Or do you think that the frustrations and, like the arrest that happened to Panyako, the attack that happened on Panyako, and the burning of the vehicles of Eugene frustrated voters not to go to the vote? Because if this is discovered as the method to be used by the government, I'm telling you, 2027, it will be chaos. And many people will fear to go and vote. But another question I would ask, GNC, munajiita GNC, mulikuwa wapi? GNC never voted. Most of them never voted. The reality is that from the checks, the old people are the ones voting. So of course babangu hawezi reason kama GNC. So kama GNC anavotia maybe Panyako, automatically my father will vote for Panyako, for Ndakwa, because maybe of the popularity he has, or how they know him, or because of where the specific small area he comes from. So it's unfortunate sometimes the Gen Zs are making a lot of noise in our country, but when it comes to voting, they have been indicated or noted as not actually registering. And that's why today Ruto said that making noise in the country, calling one term and going around and spreading information against what the government is doing is not going to give anyone votes. And I agree with that. If anyone thinks that the current government is not suitable, there are other statistics or ways to win the election. But just making noise out there will not be enough. Now remember also, violence has become part of the game. I've never seen an election which is so violent as this. I didn't expect that by-election in Kenya would be that violent, but it was. So what do you expect now in 2027? That's just a question. Remember, a lot of people like Khalwale were abusing Farouk Kibet as a class 2 dropout. But then sometimes there is an intelligence someone just works with, without necessarily schoolwork. You know, schoolwork is about mathematics, chemistry, biology, history. But when it comes to life, guys, sometimes you need just an intelligence outside class. And I think Kibet has proven it. That is why the president will never drop him, guys. So he spent all the days, I'm told he spent all the days in Malava. And what he was doing, planning those violence, dropping money to people's doorsteps. They went around to distribute relief food like rice and maize through the lady from Kakamega. Oparanya was there to help, Chesa was there to help, and Livondo Stanley. So you can imagine, it means that if you have to win in politics, politics is not a game that is more of friendly game. It is not a friendly game with your neighboring school. It is a rival game that you have really to prove your muscle and show how powerful you are. But now I was surprised. Actually, I commented this earlier. Panyako started to cry in front of the people. Imagine. When he started crying, I just saw a weakness there. Of course, that one already indicated he was weak. Then he comes out exposing all that they have done to him in public. Again, I didn't see that as a tick, because he was showing to his people that he is a bit of, afraid or something, you know. And lastly, we saw how Eugene Wamalo, I don't know why he parked his vehicle where he did, and it was burned down to ashes. No one came to rescue, no one talked about it. Natembe, I don't know why he was abducted also on the same day. It's so funny. There are some things that we cannot control, but I'm telling you, politics, you must also be clever. If these people had escaped that, maybe some things would be different. But let's come back here and listen to what Ruto is referring to in terms of yesterday's elections.
Si mnajua kulikuwa na uchaguzi jana. Mimi nawauliza, jana tulikuwa na uchaguzi katika taifa letu la Kenya mdogo, si ndio? Kutoka Mbeere mpaka kule Kasipul, kutoka kule Banisa kupitia Baringo mpaka kufika huko Malava. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Kati ya viti 7, si ndio, ya ubunge na senate, yote 7 ilishindwa na broad based government. Ni kweli ama si kweli? Ni kweli ama si kweli? Mimi nataka niwaulize, si ndio? Unajua kuna watu Kenya hii wamezoea maneno ya bure. Wakikuja hapa mtawasikia ni watu hawana agenda, ni watu hawana mpango, ni watu hawana sera. Watakuja hapa wawaambie maneno matatu peke yake, hakuna kitu kingine watawaambia. Watawaambia one term, Kasongo must go. Sasa niwaulize watu wa Kiambu, acha mimi nawaulize, na mimi nataka niwaambie, hakuna kitu watasema. Hawajui mambo ya barabara, hawajui tutapata afya namna gani, hawajui affordable housing itajengwa namna gani, hawajui mambo ya SHA itaendeshwa namna gani, hawajui highway kama hii itajengwa namna gani. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Wanajaribu kutuuzia ukabila na chuki na migawanyiko. Mimi tayari nishawaambia. Mimi niliwaeleza juzi, nyinyi watu wa ukabila, watu wa chuki, nyinyi ambao watu mnaendesha sijui one term, Kasongo na Masugo, hiyo sio sera. Tafuteni sera. Na niliwaambia wasipotafuta sera watachelewa. Sasa jana wananchi, mimi niliwapatia ilani, wananchi wamerudia jana. Wananchi wamepatiwa ilani, si wananchi wamepatia hawa majamaa ilani? Wananchi wamewaambia tena jana, tafuteni sera, tafuteni mpango, tafuteni kama ni one term Kasongo na Masugo, chuma chenu kimotoni, mtaona kivumbi. Ama namna gani bwana? Ni kweli ama si kweli? Yes. So I want to tell our friends, we do not want a divided country. Don't sell to us ethnicity. Don't sell to us hate. Don't sell to us division. We want a united country. Tell us what your agenda is. Tell us your plan. Tell us your agenda. One term Kasongo must go is not a plan. It's not an agenda. It is about a person. It is about hate. It is about the next election. We are discussing about the next generation. We are discussing about the people. You are discussing about leaders. We are discussing about the people. You are discussing about the next election. We are discussing about the next generation. There is a world of a difference between us and you. It is as different and as clear as day is from night. Nyinyi mnanielewa bwana? Sasa nishawaambia hawa jamaa, wakiendelea na hii tutawazamisha asubuhi na mapema. Hao watu watatembea wakitembea. Kiambu hoye! Kiambu hoye! Na mimi nataka niwashukuru wa Kenya.
So guys, of course you saw how much the president was so excited. And I've been talking about this, by the way, for a while. That as we look into the opposition, what exactly are they sharing with us? Alright guys, so you cannot actually give your manifesto based on what the other one is not doing. And if the opposition is having an agenda, the way to go is to draft a manifesto and come up with plans on what to do. Like if Matiang'i can come together with GACHAGUA and Kalonzo and the rest. Now you can actually prove that Kalonzo is a powerhouse in his home because Makueni, they voted for Wiper. Matiang'i is also a powerhouse from Kisii because Nyamira, they did not accept, the government. But then I'm doubting on the power of Natembeya, Eugene Wamalwa. I'm also doubting on the power of Rigiji now. Guys, what do you think? Drop a comment also on this, because I suspect the people of the mountain have not supported Rigathi Gachagua so far. From that election in Mbeere alone, we are able to see something. When it comes to the election that happened in Malava, as far as they really tried, but they are still not really embraced, Khalwale, Natembeya and Eugene have not been fully embraced alongside Malala, because the only place they won was Kisa East. Yeah? But ODM is still winning in Kaspul and Coast. That is a very clear communication that the opposition have a way far off to go. When you stand in a crowd, by the way, it's so funny. People will always celebrate you, clap for you, laugh with you. But the communication finally happens on the ballot box. And it is good that the by-election happened in 2025. And this one is enough to tell whether it is the government, ODM, or, DCP to work, or the opposition to work seriously on their agenda. And one of the agendas they have been having a serious problem with is, what is the opposition selling to us? What is their vision? You cannot just tell me that I'll remove this disease, or we are going to remove this person so that we don't have this problem. But tell us, I'm going to do this. I'm going to fix this. So it is high time for the opposition to work with imperative statements. Statements that tell us what they are going to do, but not telling us in negative statements, we are not going to have this. We are not going to have this. Actually, reality is reality and practical is practical. How many opposition leaders have gone into a meeting and failed to mention one term? How many have gone and failed to mention, we are taking him home, or Ruto must go? And what he's saying is actually true. You may say he's a falla, he's foolish, he's whatever, because you don't like what he's doing. But then I believe the opposition has to now sit down and see another strategy that will help them in 2027. Just as Ruto is saying, or else I'm not going to see it being easy. Remember, again, Ruto is someone who is using violence through his machineries. And remember, he owns the state currently. That is why you saw yesterday CS of Interior, Murkomen, came out to tell the voters to vote and go home, not to roam about the voting centers. That is why they were able to have police all over the places. That is why we could see vehicles moving around, And that is why we could see the withdrawal of police forces for people who are not supportive to the government, whereas those who are supportive to the government were shielded. So, of course, I can't say that Ndakwa was not maybe people's preferences because he's popular. He has ever been an MP. People have, a likelihood towards him because Malulu was his friend. But then, remember, the opposition is still wavering about. They are still confused talking about the rigging, but we cannot continue having that narrative that we had before during the time of Raila Odinga. All the time, if you lose and you just say they rigged, somehow it reads a weakness in you. But you just accept, consent it, then plan for a better strategy for the next election. I think that is the best way to go. And when it comes to security then, these people should be ready to hire a strong private security because they know they are going to deal with goons, serious goons. If we have seen what we have seen in by-elections, what about now elections? I'm telling you, 2027 will not be easy. So you cannot go there with faint-hearted the way Panyako was crying and saying, "Wacha iende kwa Nandi." Of course, it has gone finally. It has finally gone. So let's see what the president said before he got and here to what Wanga also shared. Because Wanga, as the governor, was really campaigning for Boyd, because when he lost Were, she really cried, we remember. She really mourned. She didn't even mourn Raila the way she mourned Boyd. Not Boyd, but Were. Yeah. But so when it came to Boyd, she really campaigned and she was so happy to have him win. And they said he imeenda and held the 10 years bila break. All right, so let's listen to this.
Nataka niwashukuru Wakenya wote, wapigaji kura wa kutoka kule Mbeere, wapigaji kura wa kutoka Kasipul, wapigaji kura kutoka Unguja, wapigaji kura wa kutoka Baringo, wale wapigaji kura wa Banisa, wale wapigaji kura wa kule Malava. Mimi nawaambia asante sana. Mimi nasema ongera, mumetuhakikishia ya kwamba hamutaki ukabila. Wakenya wametuambia hawana biashara na ukabila, hawana biashara na chuki, hawana biashara na migawanyiko. We want a united nation, a nation that stands together and focuses on the good and the prosperity of every citizen without the limitations of where they come from, their religion or their ethnicity. Tumekubaliana jameni? Mimi nimemaliza, nataka niseme asante sana Kiambu.
All right. So the president spoke for around 18 minutes and 26 seconds. Can you imagine? So exhilarated. He was overwhelmed with happiness. He never expected what he saw, but of course, having put on all the machineries, that came to happen. Now I want us to focus on Homa Bay, but before that, let's see something here. Somebody said that Kenya Kwanza should not be celebrating. Let's just hear why he thinks it should not celebrate. That's David Wafula.
So with no further ado, let's get after it. So let's start with Kenya Kwanza's performance in Mbeere North. Historically, Mbeere North has always been a 50-50 battleground, and I'll give you examples. In 1983, Sylvester Mate beat Kamwithi Munyi with just 183 votes. In 2002, JB Muturi beat Muriugi with 266 votes. In 2013, Njagagwa beat JB Muturi with 284 votes, and in 2022, Roku beat Njagagwa with 647 votes, and finally, 2025, Wamudhende has fictitiously defeated Karis with 494 votes. So imagine all the millions of money used in the form of bribes, only to win by 494 votes. That just goes a long way to show that Wamudhende had no numbers bar bribery and voter manipulation. So Mbeere North, from where I sit, remains to be a 50-50 battleground constituency. So come 2027, it's not over. A loss of 497 is a very small margin, considering the amount of bribery and corruption that took place. And I'll give you more of that in the third video of the day, where actually Wamudhende might not be sworn in and might find himself headed to court. But let me not talk about that now. I'll do so in the third video of the day. Now, the second reason why KK should not be celebrating in Mbeere North is because their candidate Wamudhende comes from a ward called Ntawa, which has 18,000 votes, which actually happens to be the highest, and Karis comes from Mominji ward, which carries only 9,300 votes. So for Karis to lose by 497 votes, that means that Wamudhende only managed to garner 53% of the total votes cast in his own ward of Ndiwa. Karis took 47% from him. So again, Karis remains to be a serious threat in Mbeere, and Wamudhende needs to know that 2027 will not be like 2025. You see, in 2025, everything stopped for those elections in 7 constituencies. The government had the financial muscle to outspend and overspend the opposition in those 7 by-elections, which is what happened. In Mbeere North, more than 600 million was used. In fact, some are talking of figures around $1 billion. Will Wamudhende be able to get that same kind of money in 2027 when the president himself is looking for re-election, when governors are looking for re-election, MPs, MCAs, all those people who are forwarding money to him, will they be available then for that? It becomes tricky. Kazi itakuwa inaendelea 2027 is voter bribery across the country, illegal empowerments across the country. So kila mwanasiasa itakuwa God for us all, every man for himself. Hii kusaidiwa Wamudhende amesaidiwa na pesa. This is the first and the last. So the question is, will he be able to redo what he has done in 2027 minus the money? Question mark. Now over to Malava. In Malava there were 2 challenges. The first is the obvious looting. I mean, how can Panyako win 134 out of 198 polling stations and then he still loses the vote by 1,200? And then Ndakwa only gains momentum when Natembea and Panyako are arrested within the hour and their agents are chased. That is a repeat of what we saw in Tanzania when Suluhu Hassan went to arrest Tundu Lissu, akaenda akashinda kura, akajiapisha, then they released Tundu Lissu. That is exactly what has happened to Panyakoe and Natembeya. After stealing elections, now they have been released. If you talk to any election observer or agent in Malava, they can tell you it was worse than anything they've seen in the country. Not even Mbeere North can compare to Malava. There was blatant looting, agents were beaten and chased, the candidate was arrested, harassed even the night before his bodyguard alipigwa kisu, and yet that candidate only lost by 1,200 votes. Yet hata ni candidate ambaye ni simp, analia kwa polling station, anatoka pale anaenda kurefute the results even before they have been released. So in Malava, opposition had a weak candidate. There was blatant robbery and they only lost by 1,200. In Mbeere North, Wamudende comes from the most populous ward, which has double the numbers Karis has in his original ward. And then you factor in all the billions that have been used and the voter bribery, and they only won by 497. Those two remain to be battleground states. It is not a lost cause as we approach 2020.
All right, guys. So that is David Wafula who has done an analysis. Do you think this is true? He says that Kenya Kwanza should not be celebrating because one thing, Malava actually had a lot of voter intimidation. We saw opposition also had a weak candidate. And of course, I quoted the fact of crying in public and also trying to throw hands and say that it should go with the Nandi. And then we saw that he was arrested alongside Natembeya only to be released after the votes were already counted. And again, looking at the fact that he won in 143 different places out of 150, you don't understand how this mathematics really favored Ndakwa. Now, when you come to the other side of Wamudende, the difference of 400 votes proves that the government really did not do much. Even though they bribed voters, they caused a lot of fracas, there was the violence. But the difference of 400, and of course from the statistics that David has just given, if Wamudende comes from a community with 18,000 votes, whereas Karis comes from a community with only 9,000 votes, we expected the difference should have been more than 400 votes. So that is why they are saying that Kenya Kwanza should not be celebrating, because 2027 may not be the same. And again, frustrations happened. A lot of voters feared to go and vote. Maybe the same will not happen in 2022. Again, on in terms of sponsoring, like if 600 million was used in, Mbeere North, will that same amount be used? Will it be available? And of course, Malava also, there was a lot of voter bribery, though not so much as compared to Mbeere. But you saw the violence that was conducted in Malava. It was extreme, and the candidate was weak, afraid of violence. He did not try to use it possibly. Or if he was being, supported by Eugene or Natembeya, then those forces were pulled out and he was left alone. Anyway, at least Kisa East won, and North, we saw also Narok winning. But we are waiting to see, because now the president is bragging and saying the broad-based government has scooped 7 good positions, including Senatorial Baringo, Banisa, and Malava, and Magarini, then Kaspul, alongside Mbeere North. So he's so happy because UDA has only gone with 2 places. That is it 2 or 3? We have Narok. We have, there are 3. Narok, we have Kariobangi North, and we have the aspect of, which was the other? Narok, North Kariobangi, and there is another. I've just forgotten it. Then when it comes to ODM, of course, we know that too. But of course, they call themselves broad-based government. Possibly they are going to form broad-based party. We don't know. So, of course, the other side, Moses Kuria had a lot to say during this election. Is he still in the race, or what is exactly happening? So let's listen to some analysis here also on Moses Kuria. Now, Moses Kuria's member, of course, got 2,480 votes. All right.
looking at. He goes home with 2,480 votes. Duncan Mbui was the DCP candidate, and when DCP decided they will not field a candidate and instead they're going to support Newton Kariuki, Duncan Mbui defected to Chama cha Kazi.
All right, so Duncan Mbui actually must have come to take away some votes which belong to Newton Kariuki, because looking at this mathematics, if he had not vied and all these votes went to Newton Kariuki, what do you think? He would have won, right? But then possibly he was used as a project, who knows? And recently, of course, we saw them sitting there and the aspect of being a project. But what does a project do? Of course, a project will always talk very strongly against a government when it is within. And another thing is that what they come is to destroy, and he made it to destroy. Of course, who knows? Money does not speak. When they are paid, it is so quiet in the pocket. Anyway, the Malava people are really talking over this election process. Let's just hear this as we see the lawyer now storming in court to demand the recount of Mbeere North results. I don't know. We'll be checking on that too.
Wakazi wa Malava wanatoa hisia mseto baada ya David Ndako wa UDA kutangazwa mshindi. Hebu sasa tuungane na mwandishi wetu Violet Auma ambaye anatangamana nao atujuze mengi zaidi. Violet.
Ni bayana kwamba kwa sasa eneo bunge hili la Malava lina mbunge ambaye ameweza kuteuliwa ambaye ni David Ndakwa wa UDA. David Ndakwa ameweza kutangazwa kuwa mshindi kutokana na chaguzi ndogo ambazo zimeweza kufanyika hapa, akipata kura 21,594 kunradhi, akimshinda mpinzani wake wa karibu sana wa DAPK ambaye ni Seth Panyako ambaye aliweza kupata kura 20,210. Baada ya kura hizi kuweza kutangazwa, basi David Ndakwa wa UDA ameweza kupewa cheti akitambuliwa kama mbunge ambaye ameweza kuchaguliwa hapa, na hivyo basi niko na wakazi hapa, wacha tuweze tu kusikia kwao hisia zao ni vipi. Wameweza kusubiri kwa takriban miezi 9 na sasa wako na mbunge hapa. Na kaka, tuanze na wewe. Majina yako unaitwa nani?
Mimi naitwa Simiyu. Lengo ni kwamba licha ya kuwa mheshimiwa Ndakwa amechukuliwa mkuu mbunge, tumeridhika, na sisi kama wapinzani atengeneze paka huko kwetu Manda Shivanga mahali Panyaka natoka. Asitengeneze tu huko, kwa sababu asipotengeneza paka huko pato tutaendelea tu kwa wapinzani.
Mimi ni Edwin Kapche, mkaaji wa Samiti. Tumeshukuru ile uongozi imeendeshwa na tumefurahia kiongozi mwenye amechaguliwa. Tumekaa kwa muda bila uongozi na tunaomba atufanyie kazi vile wananchi tunataka.
Kwa majina naitwa Gideon Aktare. Tumefurahi sana kwa uchaguzi kufanyika hivyo na kupata mshindi. Katika kila competition lazima kupatikana na mshindi. Ule mwenye tumepewa, huyo ni Mungu ametuchagulia. Ni sawa hata kama tu kwa pande yake, lakini wakati huu tunaomba tuweze kuungana na yeye, aweze kutusaidia, aweze kuangalia wale watu ambao wako chini, kina vijana, kina mama, wazee wote waweze kujaliwa maslahi yao, wasiweze kuachwa.
Siasa imekuja, imepita, imeenda, Kenya imepaki kama venye inakuanga. Na naomba ule mheshimiwa ambaye amepita ambaye ni Ndakwa aweze kuunganisha wa Kenya. Kumekuwa na differences whatever hapa na pale, lakini juu siasa imekuja na ndiye ameipuka mshindi, aweze kuunganisha na Malava wote na sisi wote tutafanya kazi pamoja.
Kura ya Malava anaona imepikwa mzuri sana. Mimi natoka Teresia sublocation. Kura yangu nilipikia na Matala. Tulipika, niliona kura ilikuwa mzuri. Kwa hivyo nafurahia kwa ule mpunga amekuja sahi atufanyia maendeleo. Mimi naitwa Solomon Mutato Molenge, nafurahia atusaidie ile barabara imeanza ikwishe kutoka Malava ienda Samiti. Tena atusaidie hapa Kimuketu na shida ya barabara tena. Na Batali tena bila alituakisa Mnata, tuna Mnata ya ng'ombe tena atusaidie.
Tumepiga kura na mara moja na mheshimiwa amepita. Tunatarajia mazuri mbele, atulimie barabara, atuletee stima, atuletee masomo, kila kitu yenye tunataka tuko sawa. Sasa mimi nashukuru kwa mheshimiwa Ndakwa vile amepita, wacha afanye kazi na roho moja. Aungane na wenzake wenye wameanguka na afanyie kazi pamoja nao.
Na mimi nimeghadhabishwa sana. Hata ukinitazama kwa sura sina furaha kwa vile Ukiniangalia hata kwa uso sina furaha vile, kwa vile uchaguzi haujafanyika kwa njia iliyo sawa. Alafu upande mwingine ni kwamba matarajio yangu ilikuwa kwa mpinzani wangu ambaye ni kiongozi wangu anaitwa Seth Panyako. Licha ya kuwa uchaguzi umefanyika jinsi ametokea, bali sina uhakika kama ni ukweli, lakini ingekuwa uwezo wangu tungerudia tena tuone kama mambo itaenda jinsi yalivyo. Kauli yangu nyingine ni kwamba jinsi wamehesabu kura katika sub-county ya Malava sijaridhika, napinga kabisa.
Sawa kabisa. Ni wakazi hapa wa Malava wakitoa tu hisia zao baada ya kutangazwa mbunge mteule hapa David Ndakwa wa UDA ambaye ameweza kushinda na kura 21,564 akimshinda Seth Panyako akiwa ni mshindani wake wa karibu sana akipata kura 20,210. Hivyo basi ni hisia tu za wakazi, na hivyo basi sisi hapa tutakita kambi hapa Malava na tutawajuza tu watazamaji wetu wa TV47 kitakachokuwa kinajiri katika habari zetu zijazo. Narudisha kwako studioni.
All right, guys, so we can go back to Kaspool now. Remember, Kaspool was now another center of interest. Let me see. There was Wanga here. Where did she go? Yeah, so of course we are seeing protests from the opposition, which is a normal situation. You know, politics has a way of giving confidence to every candidate. And also, given that the situations that happened in Malava were unfair to Panyako, it is human to have him protest in the current process. But I don't know whether it's going to serve any purpose. For me, I would believe they would just reorganize themselves. We have very few years to election, and then they reorganize themselves and, you know, focus on what they'll do. Because we've seen the protests from opposition trying to say that they are not satisfied with the results and all that. But all is gone already. Certificate was given, and I don't think there is any time for those cases. When you look at the moment, it's already too late to have that. But anyway, it will depend on what they'll decide. Let's see here.
Has garnered 209 votes. Benjamin Nalwa has garnered 250. Malava hoye. Malava hoye.
Yeah, so we have seen even in Mbeere, GACHAGUA and his team also rejecting whatever was happening there. Maybe let's check on that, how they rejected
We have sadly witnessed a series of disparate and well-coordinated attempts to subvert the will of the people. Number one, the heavy and intimidating deployment of police officers, many of them in plain clothes.
Niko na jambo wanabunge wenzangu. Mimi ningependa kuambia Mheshimiwa William Samoei Ruto kwamba Mheshimiwa William Samoei Ruto, wewe si mjinga kutoka Kenya. Mahali ulipo saizi wewe unajua kile kitu ambacho kinaendelea. Na I can even cry. Naweza lia jameni. Lia. Kama Mheshimiwa Seth Panyako. Yai. Naweza lia. Lia tena. Mbona mnafanya hivyo Seth Panyako? Mbona mnafanya hivyo Seth Panyako? Seth Panyako is a lawyer. Amore wachana amore. Is a lawyer, a farm lawyer. Mwenye anataka kusimamisha Malava kwa constituency. Lakini watu kutoka Sugoi, watu kutoka kwa Ruto, mmekuja hapa na mattress. Mnakula wanafunzi wa Malava kule. na wanawake wa watu kule, alafu mnatuambia Ndakwa tosha. Namwambia kama Ndakwa atapita kura Malava constituency, atatuambia ametoa wapi kura.
Sasa amemwambia.
Na sisi
amemwambia baada ya kushinda.
Witness a series of disparate and well coordinated attempts to subvert the will of the people. Number one, the heavy and intimidating deployment of police officers, many of them in plain clothes, accompanied by brutal attacks on opposition leaders and supporters. The intention is clear: to scare voters away from coming out in numbers they intend to tomorrow. We have seen this in Narok Town, in Malava, and in Mbeere North. Unmarked famous Subaru foresters have been roaming GACHAGUA and MALAVA not to protect citizens, but to intimidate them. This is a mission. Wawe macho from 5 o'clock in the morning.
All right, so these people came up with briefs after briefs, but what I've just learned in politics, guys, if I ever go into politics, is not a child's game. You have to be so serious about what is happening. So maybe let's end here and see what will happen later.